Bengal tiger cub rests in a national park in India. The Bengal tiger is just one of the remaining 6 subspecies. All existing subspecies add up to just an estimated 3,200 tigers left in the wild. There recently has been good news for the Bengal tiger as reports show their population might be on the rise. It seems the millions spent on saving the animal have finally trickled down to those most important to their survival. Constant protection of the parks and realistic population counts will help this species survive.
Over 8,000 miles away here in the United States, the tiger has a much different story. Just how many tigers do we have here? Well, it all depends on who you ask. Organizations like IFAW and World Wildlife Fund state that there are approximately 5,000 tigers living here in the U.S., while groups advocating for exotic animal ownership state a lower number ranging around 3,500. No matter how you feel on the subject, I think we all can agree it's frustrating not to be able to get a good count. But even with the low estimate of 3,500, we still have a lot of tigers here in the U.S. So where do all these big cats live? In zoos, right? Well, somewhat right. The SSP, or Species Survival Plan for the tiger, has 3 subspecies it tries to help: the Amur, Sumatran, and the Malayan. The goal is to establish gene diversity for the next 100 years, which means about 150 cats for each plan. Right now you have 279 tigers in an estimated 104 participating institutions. These institutions not only are there to educate and entertain the public about the plight of the tiger, but also with aiding research, they have recently raised over $500,000 that went towards helping the wild tiger. It's only recently that the SSP has frowned upon breeding outside of their plans. They have called for all breeding of generic tigers to stop. A generic tiger is one that either its ancestry can't be traced back or it has been crossbred between species. All white tigers fall under this category. Currently within the SSP, you have just under 60 generic tigers in just over 25 facilities. Once these generics are gone, the facilities will be able to lend a helping hand to the SSP. The plan needs help, as it has its struggles with finding successful breeding pairs and having enough institutions to house all the cats. Currently, some plans are turning into more of a global effort to suit the needs of the species involved. You don't want to have to replenish a wild population with captive animals, though. But as seen with similar predator reintroductions, only those animals that are pure subspecies will be considered and allowed from the officials overlooking the native habitats. Unfortunately, only a small fraction of tigers are in an SSP at an accredited zoo where they are accounted for. The others are at places like the circus, or with exhibitors who will show them at events like auto shows or state fairs. You can see them in people's backyards. And the vast majority seem to be living at non-SSP involved zoos, where they are often bred so that the facility can draw attention and attendance by always having cubs. Some places will allow the public to interact by posing with a cub, or even swimming with it, at some pay-to-play opportunities. If you think about it, to always have cubs available, one must be breeding tigers all the time. It puts serious doubts as to where all the adult tigers end up. Are they stockpiled, shipped out to other poorly run zoos, or simply lost in the shuffle? A few of the lucky ones end up at a true sanctuary.
Amy Hartzell. I am the Assistant Sanctuary Manager at Black Pine Animal Sanctuary in Albion, Indiana. We are currently home to 100 animals, 11 of which are tigers. The majority of our tigers have come from private breeders. 3 of our tigers have come from a facility where people were trying to breed white tigers, and that is purely for profit. We also have a handful of tigers from facilities that we would refer to as pseudo-sanctuaries or roadside zoos that basically pump out baby tigers because it brings in income. People want to come see these baby tigers and hold them, but no one thinks about what happens to those tigers once they're full grown and too dangerous to interact with anymore.
6 states place no restrictions on owning a tiger. 14 states require a permit, and around 30 prohibit ownership, but in those states, some people can easily get around it by saying they're a zoo or an exhibitor. The wildlife agents themselves will be the first ones to admit they are understaffed and unprepared to really oversee the tiger population in America. The places that overbreed to always have cubs have gotten so out of hand that not only welfare groups, but now responsible travel agencies are asking people not to support facilities allowing interactions with cubs. This is not to say that every tiger not in the SSP is mistreated or abused, but they do contribute to the overpopulation of tigers we have in the U.S. Just think, if all those resources we use in taking care of them were then channeled over to help wild tigers, they might be in better shape. The countries that don't have this problem and also then don't have a need for rescues and sanctuaries are those that have simply put an end to private ownership of animals like tigers.
There are a very limited number of true sanctuaries in the U.S. That currently still have space for tigers. We are quickly filling up, and it is very expensive to take care of these animals. So most sanctuaries cannot take as many animals as there are that actually need homes. Currently, Indiana can be pretty lenient on that, and we are making steps in the right direction, but there's still a long way to go. We are aware of a handful of breeders still in Indiana who are pumping out baby tigers and selling them.
Recently, states like Ohio that were once lenient are now passing tougher laws. Still, in some states, all you need to do is search the internet and find a breeder willing to sell you a tiger. As states try to get a grasp on their individual situations, the federal government seems to still be dragging its feet.
I'm Jeff Kramer with Big Cat Rescue in Tampa, Florida. So the solution to the exploitation of these exotic animals, particularly cats, is going to be the Big Cats and Public Safety Protection Act, and that is H.R. 1998, and the Senate version is 1381. And that would ban the private ownership and ban the private breeding of any exotic cat cheetah size and larger. And what that's going to do, it's not going to make the people that have them now euthanize them and put them down. It's going to say, if you have one now, you have to register it, you have to microchip it, and you have to agree never to buy, breed, or trade in these animals again. And what that's going to do is grandfather this entire problem of exotic cats and private ownership out of existence.
It makes sense to streamline this whole industry in order for it to really succeed. With all these tigers out there, not only do you run a risk of poor welfare, but you can also overexpose an animal, which is shown to make the public feel complacent about its conservation and not actually fully understand how few wild animals are left. It is finally time to understand the American tiger. For more information on this subject, please read this video's description.